Hello, this is one of a series of videos on Weidmuller's easyConnect service. I would strongly suggest you watch the first video you should watch, easyConnect Setup Getting Started, and then I would watch easyConnect Detailed Telemetry Setup for UOS firmware. So if you've watched those two, you'll have gone through the setup of the IoT connector and the telemetry app and getting variables into the telemetry app from the controller. The next step is to create dashboards and visualizations. So we're making use of the telemetry app within easyConnect for this. Functionality is available in 6 devices that Weidmuller sell. 2 of them are what we call web controllers, the WL2000s. They come as standard with what we call web firmware, which means that they are fully configured within the browser. No software is required. This is also true of the IoT GW gateways at the bottom. The GW30 at the bottom, 4G EU, is basically a gateway IoT with the functionality of a SIM card to allow you to have remote access via a mobile phone network, where all of the other devices use RJ45 standard Ethernet port. The M3000 and M4000 controllers are only available in UOS firmware, which basically means they run Codesys native PLC software on them, whereas the other 4 devices, the WL2000 and the GW30s, as I said, out of the box are a web controller, but you can update the firmware by installing UOS firmware, and that then turns the controller into a Codesys native base controller. Hope that makes sense. So we'll now move on to the actual setup of this. So picking up where we left off in the last video, we set up a asset for inventory and an asset structure. And then if we go to data visualization and metric overview, I can load previously created variables. So there it was, metric overview. If I load that, just give it a minute, and we can see 3 variables or tags I'm bringing in from the controller into the easyConnect cloud service. Okay, and these are dynamic values for latitude and longitude. If I go here, I can do a refresh and you should see those values update. Yeah, okay, so we can then go into an area to create a dashboard called Live Monitor. So I click in here and you get this view, and in here you can create some HMI visualization pages. Just to reiterate that the dashboard in easyConnect is for not controlling a machine or plant. It is purely for status information and logging and visualizing data coming from the controller. There's no input, it's purely data coming from the controller into the easyConnect cloud platform. So if I want to add a tag, we call that a metric. So I click on here and put the metric down, and then I go to, it's called metric 1, and I can change the color if I want to and change the size, and I can be specific with where I drop the element on the screen by changing the size of the element, the width and the height, and the X and Y coordinates, and also the rotation angle if I want. So let's keep it simple, and I just dropped it on the screen. I go to data, I then pick the metric in question. So I've got my new asset structure I'd previously created, and I expand that, expand the controller, and I pick a metric or a tag. Save that, and that is now in the system, and straight away, although I'm in edit mode, it's live, and if you notice there, it is dynamically changing without me needing to do any form of refresh. So that is ISS latitude. So I might want to put a label on that, so I can drag that over, say, and put text object and go to style. That's the name. We don't need to change that. Again, we can change the color, size, etc. If I want to actually edit the name, I click into the box and I call it ISS lat. Okay, and if I want to make the box smaller, I can literally just manually drag it over and then reposition it. Fairly basic, fairly simple. Okay, so that is, just to clarify or check, yeah, that's the latitude, and now I want the longitude, so I can literally copy them, Control C, Control V, drag them into position, edit the name of that, and make the text field a bit bigger. Okay, and then click into the actual metric or tag and go in here, delete that metric and pick a different metric. So I want to pick the longitude, click on there. So we now have both values updating. One's giving you the latitude and one's giving you the longitude. So that's working fine. So that's basically adding text, adding a simple metric. You can add images as well. So if I click in here, I can decide how big an image I want and then pick an image and drop it down. So there's an image. I can obviously resize that to suit. Okay, so that's a very basic dashboard. Bear in mind that at the moment I'm just looking at one asset or one device, so I'm looking at a UOS controller. If I had multiple devices configured in my easyConnect, then I would be able to display metrics in a dashboard from all different sources, so I could have a mixture of information coming from different devices. So we've had a text, we've had a picture and a metric. We can also have a gauge, so if I put a gauge down here, metric. Unfortunately, the only two dynamic values I've got are these two, so I think I will just pick that. ISS latitude, which is going to be going plus and minus. So I can click in here, go to style, and I can do some different labels and different colors, so I can split it into different number of segments. So at the moment I've got 10 lines and 5 ticks, and I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines split and 5 ticks between. So I can change the weight, so if I just change that to 40, that's what we're changing, that distance there. So not really sure how often you're going to want to change that. I'll leave it as default, to be honest. I can change the color. Okay, so it's relatively basic, to be honest, but that's what it does. So what I really need to do is change the label, so I'll probably want to label it goes from, I don't know, minus 180 to plus 180 as its latitude and longitude I'm displaying, and I think that looks a bit more realistic. Okay, so there we have a gauge. So they really are your four main elements: basic static text, a picture, a metric, and a gauge. So we're in edit mode here. What I can now do is save that view. Yep, so we save that view, and we can either, it'll probably in your case, because you've done it from scratch, ask you to enter a name, or you can just update an existing view you've already previously worked on. So if I update a previous view, it says, do you want to override, and just say yes. So that is a very basic dashboard I've got working there. You also have basic shapes or forms as they're called. So if I click in there, it's literally that, a shape. So I'm drawing a rectangle or a square, and as any basic package I can extend, etc. And ellipse as well. So if I've put them down and decide I don't want them, I just highlight them and delete. Fairly basic. If I want to look at all the elements in my project, I go to here, elements, and there they all are, and I click on them and they become highlighted. Because as you can imagine, if you have lots of different elements, it might be easy to lose track of which is which. So if you click on them in this element view, they're highlighted there for you. I've only got a few variables on there, but it shows you the concept of what you can do with the dashboard. So also I'm in edit mode at the moment, so if I just save again just to make sure I'm up to date, and then come out of edit, then I can say show me a full screen view, and that's what the user would probably see. But as you can see, there's a lot more room on the screen, and I could have far more metrics than I've got. I'm just giving you a basic overview. Hit the escape key, takes you back to the normal view, and we can alter the zoom level. Bring it a bit bigger. Here is just a refresh or full screen, and you've got some keyboard shortcuts as well. So you want to look at those. So that is live monitor. So a chart, we click into chart now, and I can add a metric. So I'll just pick the same two metrics again that are dynamically changing, latitude and longitude. Save those. Okay, and you've seen some values there, and if you notice, we're seeing historic data because I've been previously logging this into the device. The uControl PLC has been connected to the easyConnect service for 3 or 4 hours, so I'm getting some data coming through here, and I can just move the pointer along and see the different data values at different points in time. Or I can certainly narrow the window. So if I do that, if I narrow the time period, then I'll get a more detailed, a higher resolution image of the trend in question. Will it let me extend? Because the values aren't going below -180 or above +180, so the extent is giving me a 200 and -200. Okay, so that's quite a nice little trend you can look at, and you can zoom right in, quite precise detail there. And you can see here that these are the two tags I'm looking at, and they're the minimum, maximum and average value. You can adjust the compression value, and you get a different view. You can change the color. And if you want, you can delete one trend so only one's visible at a time. And at the moment I've got a line, so I can click here and pick area, for example, or area accumulative, bar, and bar accumulative. So there's a few options in how you visualize the data, and you can also go down here and change the color. Let me just try that again. Yeah, color change there. And that's telling you obviously today's date, the time and date that it's been received. If I had this connected for 6 months, I could use these arrows or click in here and point to a time in the past. So I can save that profile. So once I've got a view I'm happy with, I can save that profile, and I'll call it chart ISS, position, and save it. Okay, so that's there, and I can always retrieve it. I can then go load profile. So obviously I could have multiple profiles for multiple devices, whatever, however you want to lay it out. As I did say previously, you can have data displayed in the chart from different devices in one view. Another nice feature here is export. So if I click on export, I can export CSV raw data, give it a file name, but by default it picks the time and the date and the name of the profile. Makes sense. And then I can pick the format and define the separator and the field separator, and then what format do I want the data to appear in terms of calendar, year, month, day, etc. So if I export that, that's downloading the file. Click on there to open it, and there you go. Just open them out a bit more. Yeah, so it's picking the date and it's giving me timestamp and the positions, which is sampled every 5 seconds. So there's actually quite a lot of data there. You can see how many. Yeah, I've got over 3,000 data entries in there. So that's the sort of functionality you can get with the data visualization. You have the live monitor and you have the chart viewers on the screen now. The device could have been a web controller, but this example I'm using at the moment is with a UOS code assist based controller. But there are some other features you can play with here. It's a bit of trial and error really to get the appearance how you want it to look. One other thing I forgot to mention is if I go to line mode here, then I go down to this area, I can then change the style of the line. So again, it's trial and error as to what looks best from your point of view. There's quite a lot of different formats. Try that again to find something a bit more. I think the default view looked better, so let's just go back to line. But as you see here, these are groups, so what that basically means, if I click on here, both trends appear on the same, both tags appear on the same trend timeline view axis. If I click here, then I can separate them out. So if I had 20 tags being displayed at a time, I could split them into 3 groups to maybe make it a bit more readable for you. But as I say, hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into what easyConnect visualization looks like and what you can do with it. Okay, hope that helps. Thanks.